Good afternoon and good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me today. Thank you, Patrick. Thank you, Rod. Thank you, Christina. Thank you, Dreamlab. Thank you, Biscuits. And thank you, Julia, who was here with me today. If she's not playing Coindozer right now. Oh my God! If looks could kill. No, it's fine. It's fine. It's fine. The thing is, we're just being caught up here in this, what's it called? The debates are going on. I don't really know much about politics. I must be absolutely super honest there with you, and I have no interest in it. But it's one of those things. It's a topic you can't escape. So I try to stay away from it all. If I've forgotten anybody, by the way, I do apologize. Thank you so much for watching. Everyone who was not in the live stream or is not in the chat who's watching this later, also totally fine. I've been preparing a little scene literally 2 hours ago, and I'd like to share it with you. Here it is. That is a boutique scene, this one. And it is made up of 3 characters in total. This is Tamara here from 3D Universe. This is, I believe, Rune. She's from DAS. She's a new character I've just bought. And this here is Alexandra in the back. And I've chosen this scene because currently there's an amazing sale on over at DAS 3D for, I think, something like a partial platinum club whatever sale. There's always some kind of sale on, isn't there? But this one is extremely cool because you can pick up some of Ironman's sets, like complete sets, for $2.99. That is just crazy good. And this is one that I picked up earlier today, and I thought, this is great to play around with. I don't know if Mixer is working. It used to be. Yes, it is. I think I'm just looking at the same picture that used to be the offline picture. Yeah, I think Mixer is working. And so there's a few things going on here. I've adjusted the lighting a little bit. There's an interesting sundial light in there that we're going to talk about. I'm going to use Biscuits hair. This is Biscuits GILI hair, new hair on Renderosity. I'm using that twice in the scene, one for the cashier over here and one on RUNE. Let me just go through these products here quickly with you. I think I've put a link in the description already. This is Biscuits hair on Renderosity, and what I love about it, it's basically one hair prop, but it comes in 3 styles, and they look really cool. So it's just literally like one preset that you click, and you've got basically 3 hair props for the price of one. Very cool. Lucky for us, it is currently on sale, 50% off. Very good idea to get that. I'm also going to use this thing here. I mean, this is something Ironman13. You don't see that every day. $2.99 for 3 products all in one. So you get the boutique, you get poses with it, and you get some outfits with it. And it's an amazing value for money. There's a few other things that DAS sell for this price. So $2.99 is kind of the Platinum Club price. And yeah, very exciting stuff. So Rune is also, that's a character that I hadn't really thought about much. It's one of those things where DAS kind of release a new figure once every month. That's just a little bit different. And what attracted me to her was the skin texture. It's a very nice facial texture with the freckles. And I thought, also for $2.99, you can't beat that. Tamara from 3D Universe, I already had her. I thought I'm going to try and put a scene together with 3 characters in it. I don't do that very often, and I still had her, and she comes with her own hair and her own outfit. So I thought, that's perfect. I'm going to use her. I think 3D Universe's stuff is also on sale right now, so also good to have a look at that. And this is another character. I thought Genesis 8 character goes in, perhaps an elderly lady who is the cashier in the boutique. That's all we're using. And $2.99 is very attractive indeed. Yes, that's what I thought. I still have the scene open here, and let's just have a look around what's happening here. So this is the transparent window that we're going to frame up nicely, and of course there's a lot of depth of field going on here. I've moved a few of these props around. They were kind of more at the outside of the outskirts of the scene, and I thought I can show how to bring a scene like that together basically from start to finish. We don't need to worry about lighting because that is all provided by the sunlight, and the scene looks like the sunlight is kind of streaming into the front window here. There we go. So the shop is basically open from the front, and we can see that the sunlight is coming in there. Well, I have removed the roof. That just helped with the lighting a little bit, but it's up to you what you do there. To speed up performance of this scene, I could remove literally half of it. So all this stuff over here we don't really need. So I could go ahead and remove that. I might show you how to do that, because that may speed up rendering quite a bit. If we don't need it in the scene, it doesn't need to be in our memory basically. Let me go ahead and I've saved the scene already, so I'm going to go ahead and create a brand new scene here, and we'll start from scratch. If you do have any questions, by the way, of any aspect that I'm doing here, feel free to ask. I've got my chat on this window today, so if I don't see it, Julia's going to be reading it out to me, and then hopefully, you know, we can talk about what you want to know there. So, thank you for the links, by the way, Julia. That is very nice. Yes, I don't know. Sometimes they have really good sales. Sometimes their sales are just, you know, a little bit. But this one is very cool. So I was instantly hooked. There's a lot of items that I'm thinking, well, especially the Ironman bundles, because they come with so much stuff that you can use for other things. There's one in like a lodge or whatever, and it's got a chainsaw with it, and you know, there's another one with the bathroom. Very, very cool things there. So I'm going to start with that scene, and I'm expecting it to be in environments over here on the smart content tab. I like using the smart content tab, and this one's under the environment tab, I13 clothing boutique interior. So this is technically one product. The other product is the poses, and then another product is the outfits. It comes with 2 outfits, and I'm going to use one of them. So you know, for $2.99 almost the entire scene there. Comes with a few flavors here. There's an empty version, and there is a kind of preloaded version, and that's a ready-made scene, so I'm going to do that. So this is the empty one here, and this is the one that comes with all the items in there. The empty one, I think that's something that you can show if this is a shop for rent perhaps, and your character wants to rent it, open her own clothes boutique, that sort of thing. But I'm going to use the fully stocked version here. Very cool, Rod. Excellent. And there we go. The scene comes with a camera already in it. So there's the boutique cam, which is just a regular camera, so it's not necessary to use it. I'm not sure if I'm going to use it. I think I'm going to switch over to the perspective view, and then I'll just have a look at what's happening here. I was even thinking I could change this texture on the window here and turn that into the WP Guru boutique. So maybe I'll leave that for later. It's basically the way to find out what texture that is I need to change is works best with the surface selection tool. That's this one here, the one with the kind of 3 squares rolled into one. If you select that, then usually any surface that you want to examine lights up orange. So in this case, I guess because it's a window, it doesn't light up orange, but if you click on it, or if you hover over it, it'll tell you it's window number 3. And on the surfaces tab, you can see that window number 3 has under the geometry tab, it's got the cutout opacity, and that is what makes this thing transparent mainly and leaves this kind of etching in the glass. So it's easy to replace that, and then, you know, go amend this and then put your own logo on there. If you don't want it to be called Ashley's Boutique, you can be called, I don't know, whatever boutiques. So there we go. I might do that for another render, don't know yet. So there's several ways to get started with a scene. I like to start by, if I haven't seen this yet at all, if I haven't seen the set at all, I like to start by examining it from all sides and seeing what's where, and then perhaps even using the keyboard and mouse navigation to literally wander around in it. And that gives me a bit of an impression of where my camera could be positioned and what the shot could look like. So I like doing that with this thing up here. That's the keyboard navigation is switched on, and this thing is the scene navigator tool. If I select that, then I can look around like as if this was a third-person computer game or first-person shooter game. And so I can walk slowly, perhaps through the revolving door and see what's going on. I like to make my camera a little bit wider, so right-click on that orbit button here, sorry, on the zoom button, right-click on that and then just make that wider. Don't go overboard, just make it a little wider. And if you're not used to the keyboard navigation, which I'm not really used to it that much, you can always switch over to the regular look around camera kind of shortcuts, or you can use these things here. Yes, indeed. So the sunlight, Patrick, is actually set up as a sundial. So, the sundial is this thing here. I've made a video about that. If you can grab that link, Julia, then we can put that in the chat. It's essentially linked to the environment tab on the render settings. So under environment, there's this thing here, sun and sky only, and sometimes it has dome and scene. So in this case, we have sun and sky only. Whoops. Which usually lets us set the time and date and the location on the planet. But if you tie that to the sundial thing, then on the very bottom here under sun and sky, we can see that the sun now has a node. It doesn't have the time properties anymore. And with this node in place, we can now go and drill down into the sundial, and we'll do that later. Drill down as the sundial has a sun base, which is invisible, and under that is the sun chain, and that is the thing that we can actually change. So that will change the position of the sun. If you select that, the sun chain, and head over to parameters, then you see that you've got the elevation and the azimuth parameters. And the elevation is how high the sun is in the sky, and that is how you can change the angle. So we're going to make that slightly more afternoon, because otherwise what I've found in my scene is that we get a kind of a nasty shadow in the main character's face, and that means it's just, we could put a point light in front of her, but it's much easier to just, if we have an adjustable light, adjust that. And the reason for not putting a point light in there is because we could get random artifacts that we don't want, but also it'll increase render time. So the more light sources you have in your scene, the longer the render is going to take, because there's just so much more to calculate for the engine. So if there is something adjustable, I like to go ahead and adjust that. Let's keep wandering through the scene. So this is kind of cool. If you go into the back here, these are changing rooms, and it's really cool because there's all kind of coat racks here, and there's more clothing items that you can try on. And these are the changing rooms here with a mirror. Very cool. You've got a few of them. You've got several over here and over here. So it's a very cool scene. It's almost like you want to play with this in regards like in a video game. So there's more changing rooms over here. Very detailed. And then of course you've got all these other very exciting items. So you've got the 2 checkouts here for 2 people in case it gets busy. That's cool. And you've got this little countertop. Some clothes in the window, of course. And then there's stuff on the walls, bags and boots. And look at the amount of shoes. That's so cool, isn't it? Makes you wonder if you could just turn them into real clothing items. That'd be kind of cool, wouldn't it? And the poses as well, Patrick. Sorry, Dreamlab. There's so many little knickknacks. I mean, the amount of work it takes to produce all this. I mean, a little seat here, and there's some stuff in the showcase. But also we've got literally dress geometry on the mannequins, and it's not just one. It's several things that he's put on here. So there's a ton of work that's gone into this. I'd love to see how he works. It'd be really, really just nice to see how he does this, like a high-level overview, of something like this. Bags and more boots. There's another outfit there. Look at that, top and some pants. That's absolutely cool. Very exciting. Do you know what? We've just bought a bookcase much like this, haven't we? This looks exactly like that. Very exciting. Slightly different texture on it though, but yeah. Antoine, thank you so much for joining us. Yes, mind your wallet. That is exactly right. So when I looked at this for the first time, I was thinking, well, I'd like to have two characters that look at some of these clothes on a hanger. And it's not so much about the clothes, it's more about the characters going shopping with one another. And there's several opportunities of where that could happen. But then when I was outside, I thought it would actually be quite cool if we frame this shot up so that we get it right through this word boutique, and we see the characters kind of here, and we're on the outside of the boutique and we're kind of filming in. So that was what I was going to do. And I think that worked quite nicely in the preview shot that I've shown you there. So I think this is how I'm going to frame it up. This shall be my main camera. Not entirely sure about the position. We don't want this word to be, going through the characters' faces and all that. But I think this is kind of roughly my shot. So I'm going to position my camera here, or my perspective view, and I'm going to create myself a camera from that so that I can, go back there. No, I think it's coming out, but I'm happy to have a look at OBS. Oh, there we go. Can you hear me? Julia can hear me, Patrick. What a shame. Maybe you've put the mute button on. Oh, for the zombie effects. Oh, right. Actually, yes. What happened with the zombie effects? I didn't. You're right. I don't hear the zombie effects either. Let's just have a look. What's going down here? Oh, yeah, because my thing is muted. Look at that. Huh. There. I hope that'll make some zombie effects appear now. I do need to invest into a new speaker, by the way. Haha, yes, it works. Thank you so much for checking that. Very good. Very nice. Do you know, I do need some other speakers because the speaker that I'm currently using is... Very nice. Thank you, Rod. The speaker that I'm currently using is kind of going to sleep if there's no audio coming out, and that's of course terrible because so he doesn't receive any audio for 10 minutes and then he switches himself off and goes to sleep. It's kind of, what kind of speaker does that? So I need to invest into one that's that's working properly. So there we go. Top left, that's right, exactly. We're on top left. We're going to create a new camera from our perspective view, and that will show me the same properties that I've just looked at here through my perspective view, but now we have a camera. Had I done that already? Now I've got two cameras. What's going down here? Are they the same? Probably are the same, aren't they? Camera 2, camera 3, yeah, okay. I get easily distracted, I'm going to delete camera 3 because we really don't need that, so there we go. I'm going to bring in, with the camera now positioned, I'm going to go back to my perspective view and go and bring in my two characters, 3 characters even. So I can see this better. I'm going to go and that is so nice. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Christina. That is very, very cool. I very much like that. Very cool. Yeah, exactly. Gets that new speaker going. They're not expensive anymore, and it's just going to be, behind the monitors. Very nice. I really appreciate that. So I'm going to go and make the ceiling invisible. I'll just click on it, and then usually in the scene tab, this is where the ceiling comes up. So I can go and make that invisible, and then I can look into the whole boutique from the front, from the top there. I'm going to go change this over to my smooth shaded view, because otherwise we'll get into trouble for nudity on YouTube. I just had that instance, so that's always very easy. Switch it to, if you're streaming something in DAZ Studio and you don't want to show a nude character, just switch it over to smooth shaded and you're good to go. I've made a little list here because I want to make sure I pick all the right outfits here and the right characters. So let's start with the cashier. That is Alexandra up here. There she is. Double click to load her in. And that'll kind of tie in with poses now as well. So with the character loaded in the center of the scene, I could now go ahead and thank you so much, Biscuits. That's really nice. Very nice. So appreciate that. Thank you so much. With the character in the center of the scene, if I head over to my poses now and find Iron Man's poses, which are down here, I13 shopping poses for Genesis 3. I can use them on Genesis 8 as well. I can go ahead and drill down here. I always have to wait like 10 seconds until this thing comes up on YouTube. Thank you, Antoine. That's very, very cool. So I hear the audio first, and then it's kind of suspense. What's happened? Is somebody hosting my stream? No, super chat donation. Antoine, thank you so much. I appreciate that. That's very, very cool. We're on a roll. I should implement a tip jar. I think there's an overlay. Instead of the zombie, I can put a tip jar, and you can see that filling up over time. So maybe that's something cool. So I just wanted to show you something here. If we're drilling down into the poses, and currently we have them split up by lower body and upper body, I don't really want to see that. I want to see them like all the standing poses. So I can open that and then click standing, and then I can see all the standing poses like as full poses, just to make my life a little bit easier. I've got two choices here. Ironman did that very cleverly. He's got the anywhere poses. See, again, this is the suspense is killing me. What's happening now? This is cool. This is cool. Okay, bring it on. See what happens. Come on. Dreamlab. Oh my God, thank you so much. That is so cool. We should have something like the weekly Sparks leader. That is awesome. Thank you so much. That is really, really appreciated. You know, that speaker is basically already purchased, isn't it? That's very cool. So we've got these anywhere poses here, and then slightly further down, we've got the go-to poses. So technically they're the same poses. If you look at the thumbnails, there's just so many of them. And one changes the location of the figure and one does not. So if I pick an anywhere pose, like this one, just as an example, watch what happens to the character. It stays... Oops, shouldn't have applied that on the ceiling, should I? Should have applied that on Alexandra, of course. So if I now double click that, Alexandra will change poses. It looks a little bit sick there, but she stays in the same position. So that's important. The poses are made for Genesis 3. She's Genesis 8, so that's why that is kind of looks a little bit like, fits right in with the zombie walking theme there, I guess. But it doesn't change, the figure doesn't change location. Whereas, let me just undo that. If I use a go-to pose, any of them, then you can see that the character changes the location as well. But the issue that I'm having with that is that no matter if I hold down control while loading the pose or not, the origin point of the figure is still in the center of the scene. It's not aligned with the figure. So while that brings the figure to a correct place in the scene, that's not a good way of using these things, because if I now have to make an adjustment, I can't use the origin point where the figure is, but I have to use it like slightly further away. This isn't that much further away, but some poses are literally like miles away, and it's really, really difficult to see that. So I'm not going to use the go-to poses, and instead I'm going to just use the anywhere poses. And I'll pick one that is something along the lines of this here. Maybe that's a good pose. Something where she's working on the cash register. There we go. That could be it. And then I'm just going to use the origin point here and just slide her over there. And then she's doing something, I don't know, something over here. We're not going to see her in focus, so it's, she's just going to be out of focus. As long as she's doing something over there, that'll just be fine, I guess. More suspense. Suspense is killing me. Oh my God, Patrick, that is extremely generous of you. Look at that. Thank you so much. That is really nice. Wow. Thank you so much, Patrick. That is a wonderful, wonderful present. And the RTX card, exactly. That second RTX card is definitely going to come in handy. And it's already, I'm planning it for the second half of this year. It's very cool. So I'm not sure what's happening here with her arms. That's really not... doesn't look that good. I'm just going to try and pick her arms and just try and take them out so that they don't look that scary. So she's just doing something behind the counter. Let me put some clothes on her. What I had picked out was, I believe, the regular boho outfit that came with the Victoria 8 Pro package. Under wardrobe, filter by context makes it easy to see only the Genesis 8 items here, and I'll just double click that. Put some clothes on the woman, there we go. Hair we'll worry about last, because hair has a lot of geometry and it makes it kind of heavy on the viewport. So we'll worry about that later. That's kind of the one character behind the counter done, and I'll go and worry about my other two characters now, which I would like to position somewhere over here. I think that is where they need to go. So first, they're going to come in on the scene center, of course, and for that I had Tamara and RUNE. All right, let's do that. Whoops. Let's go click figures and see if we can find RUNE. Oh, Tamara. Tamara's here. Oh, they're next to one another. Look at that. Very cool. That's handy, isn't it? RUNE and Tamara. I don't think RUNE's preview picture does her any justice, I must say. It's one of those things. Let's use RUNE first. She also looks very similar to another character that I remember. What was that name again? I can't quite remember. I'll do exactly the same thing. I'm going to put we can put clothes on her first maybe, and this is going to be this one here, the stylish ensemble for Genesis 3. That also comes with this $2.99 bundle. Very cool. So with RUNE selected, that's this one here, and that comes with a scarf and everything. So it's very, it's very handy stuff. Still with RUNE selected, we'll go out and head over to the poses section, shopping poses, and once again we go drill down, look at the standing poses. That's kind of nice, isn't it? Sitting poses, standing poses, very cool. And I'm going to use another anywhere pose, and this time I'm looking for something that's kind of a dual pose. He's making these thumbnails with two colors. Look at that. I think this is what I'm looking for. These things here. So sometimes you see a pink figure and a white figure, and that means this pose is now kind of a couple type pose. So this and that, these two belong together. That's what that means. And here we have this basically the same thumbnail, but here we have the left figure and here we have the right figure. And then here we have these exact poses mirrored as well. So it's very, very nice. If you're not into building your poses yourself, which I'm not, this is a very handy way to get started. So actually, yeah, these poses here that may be beneficial. So I'll go and have RUNE use, or assume this pose. And the anywhere pose means that she's still in the center of the scene, which is what I want, because then I can manually move her over to the clothes rack here. Just put her into position there for now. And now I'm going to go over to the figure again, or figures again. I'm going to go load Tamara from 3D Universe. This is an interesting dialogue that you'll get if you load more than one person of the same generation into the scene. And this just means that DAZ Studio offers to turn the current Genesis figure into the character that you're trying to load. So I guess the idea is that if you had the same generation and you say, hey, now I'm loading Tamara's based on the same figure, would you just like to morph her over? So the choices are load a new figure into the scene, which means you have two characters, or apply this character to the currently selected figure, which is also exciting because that means you can try out different characters in the same spot that you've already set up. So if you don't like the look of a character, you need to have a bit more skinny or a bit more, fatter head and all that, you can do it that way. But I want a new figure. You can also keep the selected option as your preference, so it won't ask you again if you want to do that. But I'm going to go and hit accept now with a new figure. That's true, Christina. I don't think it does. Absolutely, it does not appear if nothing is selected, or if you have something like the seat or whatever selected. That is absolutely true. Yeah, good point. Yes, that is origin point can absolutely be a total nightmare. There is I think there's an article on my website that shows you how to change that. In fact, I've also made a video as part of the DAZ Studio 101 series. I know that because David from France has just watched that and he's left me a comment on it because he couldn't work out how to do that. Thank you, Dreamlab. Very good to know. I'll go and select Tamara now and head over back to the poses. See, this is why Julia needs a microphone, doesn't she? Julia really doesn't want a microphone. I'm thinking it could be actually beneficial if she had a microphone, because then, you know, that's all I ever get. See, Dreamlab says, that's right, producer, joint editor, that sort of thing. I'm going to smuggle a microphone in next time. Maybe tomorrow, but don't tell her about it. Let's head back into the shopping pose. I'm sure Julia will never know. What's that black thing dangling from the ceiling there? Oh yes, that's that. Oh, it's a fly catcher, I think. The landlord did it. So let's see. This is the only problem. Let's see if I can find that pose again, of which I'd like to apply the second part. There we go. That's it, isn't it? We had... Which one did we have? This one, wasn't it? Oh, Steve, good morning. Good morning from what is the other thing that you say? Down under is what we call you guys. What do you call us? I wonder. Never mind. Good morning anyway. Up and above? No, that's not it, is it? Up and above, down under? Steve, I was going to ask you this actually. Is it true that we've just had the summer solstice here in the Northern Hemisphere, the longest day of the year? Does that mean you guys just had the shortest day of the year? Poll. Okay, I forgot which pose I've applied here. I think it was this one. And now I think I'm going to go with this one for Tamara. Let's see what happens when we do that. There we go. That's what she does. Yeah, perfect. So she's kind of standing this way, and then RUNE can go and stand the other way. And then we can go and make that happen. So I'm going to need some clothes for Tamara, of course. Very important. With her still selected, I'll head over to the Smart Content Wardrobe tab. And there she is. That's her clothes. She comes with a complete outfit. So we'll go and put that on her. She also comes with her own hair. So we're going to use the hair of that figure too. One thing, just before I even start putting them into the right positions here. So I think... RUNE now needs to just spin over here a little bit and maybe move a little bit closer to the clothes rack. Tamara can maybe, whoops, what did I do there? Tamara can move a little bit further over here. So perhaps the two of them looking at the same item of clothing there. But one thing that I do notice already, first of all, is that I can't look through the glass, but I think we can go and switch this back into texture shaded mode now that all our ladies are dressed. Let's do that. Takes a second for Daz to load up all the textures. One thing that I can see is that the height between the characters, so the scale of the characters is very different right now. There we go, with the textures in place, the opacity map is applied, and I can now see that I can see through the glass just like I wanted to. So the height difference between them is a little annoying, and sometimes that happens. In that case, don't be afraid to change it over. So I think even though Tamara is a kind of a younger teen, she is too small for my liking. So I think if I see her next to RUNE, RUNE is about 5'5", she should be a little bit taller. But it's no problem. We can make that happen with that white cube down here. Just even that perspective out a little bit. It was just a tiny bit wide for me there. And the geometry kind of distorts a little bit too much there. You can do that with this white blob here. There's two ways of doing it. Either with the white blob, that'll scale the whole figure up. You can turn her into giant monster woman. Don't want to do that though. So I want to keep her a little bit smaller, but the default was just a bit too small for my liking. Everything on the figure will scale with her, so that's kind of nice. Yeah, don't be afraid to change that up, because if you have two items from different manufacturers, they may not necessarily match up. The other way of doing it is, of course, from the parameters tab. You could, with that figure selected, select parameters, and then you have the scale values here. And scale, you can apply that, make that figure larger or smaller. So I think what would happen if we put that back to the default? That was 83. Yeah, that was wasn't enough for me. So I think maybe something like that. Okay, let's see how that looks when we look through our camera. Not so bad, not so bad. I think in the camera has taken on the same perspective as my perspective view, which I had made a little bit wider. So I think I want to make that, I want to even that out a bit. So I'm going to select my camera, go over to my cameras tab here, and I'll have a look at the focal length. And that's currently 36, which is definitely wide angle. So I'm going to make that a bit wider, but sorry, a bit more kind of zoomed in. Perhaps I'm going to leave it at something like 60, 65. Sounds like a good idea. I'll do that. Yeah, so before, after. And the difference is that if you make that more extreme, you see that you show more on your picture, but the downfall is that the geometry distorts. Also, the wider your frame of view is, the less you'll have a chance of establishing shallower depth of field. So if you make that kind of 50 and above, you'll have a good chance of making a good depth of field thing there. Yeah, 60, 65. Let me set that to 65. There we go. Okay, so I want to see the women, of course. Oh yeah, actually I can probably move this character at the back somewhere further over here. Perhaps we'll worry about that later for the final framing. Oops. Yeah, I like to see the word boutique and then the two characters just behind that, and boutique is going to be all out of focus. Yeah, something like that. I'll go and switch on, by the way, that's always good to focus my aspect frame so I can see what's going to end up on my actual shot. This comes from the render settings, of course. So under render settings, under general, you can select your aspect ratio here or type in the pixel dimensions that you want. I'm going to use 1920 by 1080, or perhaps I'm going to use 1280 by 720, same aspect ratio. And that now tells me that if I'm so happy about that word boutique here, that means I'm going to have to do something about the position of my characters. So let me try and do that. I'll select them from the scene tab here. So RUNE first. And with that little white spot down here, I'm just going to move her over to here. And I'll do the same with Tamara. Tamara comes a bit closer, so we can focus more on these two characters. There, that's nice. And if we wanted the third character in, I'll just have to tumble this around a little, like so. Yeah, I think that's nice. Let's move, while we're in the moving mood, let's move Alexandra maybe further over here and slightly further back. So she's doing something with the cash register. Or maybe even move her over here. Yeah, there we go. That's fine. Let's do that. You can even amend her height. We don't see her feet, so if I needed her a bit higher or lower, I can totally make that happen. We're not going to see what's happening behind the counter there. I think that's a good start here. Let's see what this scene looks like rendered. Let me just go and save that. I've got a folder on my desktop already that's called Boutique Prep. I'm going to call that Boutique Stream. There we go. And then I can share it with you later. All the Patreon supporters will get access to the scene if you wish. And then you can examine every single slider that I've dialed in there so far. I'll switch my iRay viewport on and we'll have a look. It's a dense scene so far, so it'll take a little bit of time for my single graphics card system to prepare itself. And that'll be so much faster with a second graphics card. But hey, we'll see. What smirk? Because I'm anticipating my second graphics card later this year. That's why the smirk. That's why. If you see something like that, relax. It's all going to come become better in a moment. Also, we hope. There we go. That is absolutely true. It's just like a limb has been severed from my body. It's not quite that harsh, but yeah. It makes such a difference once you get used to this just popping up, and you make fine adjustments and they just render immediately. It's unbelievable. So, kids, what can we see? What's the first impression that we get? Chat Crypto, thank you so much for joining us today. How exciting. Denoiser, okay, that's, yeah, let's do that. And how shall we use the denoiser? Shall we put the denoiser on 0 iterations, or shall we put it on oh, the denoiser is on. Look at that, the denoiser is on. It's on 8 iterations, so we can leave it there. Leave it there? Yeah, let's do that. 8 iterations is good, let's do that. So I can tell you my first impression. Light is too strong. I think it's way too hot, that image. I can see things being blown out here in the background. I mean, we're probably not going to show this figure, but I can see that there's no detail on that, and that means that the light's a bit too strong. I can see that the skin tone here is burning out a little bit. Her face looks okay. The back of the room looks okay too, but that's probably also because we still have the roof not on there. So I suppose if we bring back the roof, the ceiling even, we'll have a slightly lesser light effect in the shop, because we're only now getting the light in from the front, literally just from the front here, from here. And that also means we don't have much light in the back of the room. So that makes it better. So I suppose that's how Iron Man had intended it to look, with the roof on, with the ceiling on. But I kind of like the idea, since we're not seeing the ceiling, we can just take the ceiling away again and adjust the lighting. I think I'm going to do that. Thank you. Actually, Dreamlab, look at that. Great minds think alike. Eh? One of those things. I said it as you had already typed it, so there we go. Yeah, so I think I'm going to leave the roof off, because that helps the background of the scene here to illuminate that a little bit better. But we need to turn it down a little bit, so let's do that. Under render settings, it still is under the environment tab, and we'll have probably under, oh there we go, under dome, I can see environment intensity. That's already set to 0.5. I think the default is 2. I think 0.5 is still a little strong. Let's try half of that, 0.25. And I think that's kind of getting there. I like the background now. I like her face. I think she's still a little bit in the shadow. And I think the word boutique, even though I would like to have it in shot, is a little bit strong. So I suppose it's just a white texture, and that 100% reflects the light now. So I think I'm going to tone that down, just make that semi-transparent. And yeah, let's do that. Let's do that now while I'm thinking about it. The easiest way to do that, like we did before, is to use the surface selection tool. Make sure the boutique is selectable. Select this word here, or the texture that thing is on, and head over to the surfaces tab, and that'll be window 3. That's perfect. Window 3, under the geometry tab, you can have a look at the cutout opacity. We have a map. That's cool. That makes the word Ashley's Clothing Boutique appear on the window. But if you don't want that, so basically anything that's black is now transparent, and anything that's white is now showing in on the glass. If you want to tone the whole effect down, you just slide down that opacity slider here and make that, oh, I don't know, yeah, maybe half of that. See what that looks like. Takes Daz a second to render. And now, not only is everything that's black transparent, anything that's now white is now semi-transparent. So you can see a little bit of the characters behind there, and it gives that nice etching effect. So these letters aren't going to be 100% there anymore. I think I'm going to use 0.3 here. Let's see how that works. Oh, Dreamlab, your video is already online. That is cool. I haven't seen that yet. Dreamlab's been very kind. He's been recording a video about how to use that content package assist product from DAS 3D. It's kind of a mysterious product. I'm very much looking forward to that. Thank you so much for letting me know. If you have a link, drop it in the chat, please. That'd be really nice. Hey, Chad, very cool. I like it. I like it. I know times is always is weird, isn't it? Sometimes you think, hey, man, I really need to go catch this guy live. I'm glad you could make it. That's very nice of you. So just finishing off the lighting then, and before we put the hair on, by the way, we need, what else we need? We need hair, we need to fix the light on her face, and we need a few expressions. And I think then we're done. Then we're going to talk about background action. Let's stick with the light here, for example. See, I didn't even switch it over to the full view, so you couldn't actually see what I was just talking about there. So what we need to do, fix hair, character, character, character. We need to add depth of field, we do that as well. And we need to fix the light on her face. She's all right, she's kind of slightly dark at the top, but she's a bit dark, so we need to fix that. We need to add depth of field. And the final thing I want to do is fix this area in the back here. That's we can probably, instead of showing a white, almost not, can't really make out what that is when it's depth of fielded, and there's something here that we could utilize probably better. So we're gonna talk about that. Let's finish off the light and play with the sundial. Let's fiddle with the sundial. So I've explained that in that video I talked about earlier. Did you put a link in the chat there earlier? The sundial video? Yeah. Perfect. So Julia put a link there up in the chat. That is, the sundial is already becomes part of the set. So sundial, sun base, sun chain. If we select that and head over to the parameters tab, then we've got the elevation and the azimuth level. So those are kind of locked in ways in which you can tweak the sun chain now. And the sun chain is going to help us move the sun across the sky. Elevation is how high the sun is in the sky, and azimuth is in what angle it stands to the earth. So you can change both of these things. I think I'm going to try and leave azimuth alone and just play with the elevation. And watch that yellow slider here that we can see. Maybe I'll show that in the perspective view. Perhaps we can see that better. We need to be in iRay in order to see the effect that's being rendered. Actually, I might as well just leave it in the camera, because that's the one that we're trying to set up. You can actually see it here. I tried to make it a little bit easier for you to see, but I guess I'm unsuccessful with that. So elevation, if I set that to lower than 141.96, which is the default value. So let me tweak that so I can see that the sun now goes higher. So the result of that is that the sun now comes from the top, and I can see the effect of the people now getting long shadows. So remember, we don't have a ceiling above our roof, so the sun just comes in here. That's not quite the effect I was after. I'm trying to put the sun to bed just a little bit more, so I'm trying to make it a little bit later in the day. So I suppose it's the other way around. From somewhere here. That could work. That could work. That makes it all a little bit softer. It's almost like sunset here. Yes, and if I make it even flatter, then I can see that the sun is essentially going away now completely. And that is not what I want. I think I don't want it to make it too much afternoon, because otherwise I lose some of the nice effects I'm getting here from the letters that come through the window. So I think I'm just going to try my way through this with single digits there, 143 perhaps. I can still see shadow on her face there. So let's try 145. Still the same. So 150. Oops, that's 180. That's not what I meant to do. 150. 150 is kind of okay. I like 150 because now you can see, if I make it too late in the day, I won't see shadows like this from all this geometry. I like the idea that we can see some of that on the characters here. That's the link. Thank you, Julia. Very nice. Sure, if you can, Patrick, absolutely do that. I only know that if you take that sundial out of the equation, you can put in the geo coordinates of where you'd like the light to emulate on Earth. So the coordinates as well as the time and date. That happens if you were to take out the sundial. So the sundial is now the node that's mapped to the sun and sky here. That's the one. If I were to set this to none, then we can't animate the sunlight that way. We'd have to put in geo coordinates and a time of day. So that is an option. But since it's already set up, I thought I'm going to use this feature here. Even lighting, we're good with that. Let's work on expressions and hair. I'm going to do that in the texture shaded view again, I guess. Well, that is cool. If you can find that, Patrick, awesome. Yeah, drop it in the chat. That'd be kind of cool. I was always wondering, because these geo coordinates, they make it really difficult for me to say Miami or, you know, I don't know, Bremen, Germany or whatever. That's so nice to know, Antoine. That's really nice. Always lovely to hear that. Expressions are in the people's heads. So first I'm going to go, I'm currently on the surface selection tool, which is why not much happens if I click their heads. So I'm going to have to go to this little guy here, the universal tool, and then I can go and right click the, I actually can't right click the heads now because I'm looking through the window. So I need to do that from the scene, or I need to pan my scene around so that I'm not looking through the window. Otherwise, DAS will see the window first and the person behind it, so I can't select anything other than the window right now. So I think, let me go into the perspective view and make selection a little bit easier. Let's start with her selection, with her expression, sorry. It's not in the actual character, it's in the head part. Expressions are always usually in the head of the character. And I can click that little square to frame up the character and rotate around her. And now I can see if I can dial up a nice expression here. That's under parameters, pose controls, head, and there's expressions here. And I've got something installed that's also from Iron Man, by the way. That's the stylish expressions, I think. There's the regular ones here: angry, flirting, frown, smile. Yeah, frown. Flirting with the clothes, that could be cool. Angry, nah, I don't like that. I mean, not that I don't like the expression, it's kind of don't like that. Or you can mix and match. So let's try some of the coy expressions. I like that it's not just the facial expression, that there's also a bit of eye movement going on there. Good expressions are really difficult to come by. Sometimes you have to do something, if you're illustrating something, it has to be more than just subtle. Sometimes this would be a little bit over the top for like a real human, but if you're illustrating something, it has to be really over the top so that you make your point, I always find. There's also excited. Oh, that's nice of you. Thank you. So I'm not quite sure which one to pick here, actually. Maybe this is kind of nice. You can also mix and match. That looks more like drunk. Let's not use that. So maybe just this one here. And I think when we look at the the final framing here, I think I also want to do something with her arm. I think I like her arm to be more on the clothes there, perhaps. So just select that, whoops, select that bottom part of the arm here. Oh, come on. This is through the window again, isn't it? There, I just put that, whoops, put that, come on, put that down a little bit, like so. And then perhaps, it's so difficult to see sometimes, isn't it? What you want to bend here. So I just want her hand to be kind of somewhere there. Oh, I really don't know how the pose creators have so much patience in doing that. Yeah, I think her pose is okay. That's kind of cool. I think one other thing I'd like to do is to turn her head. And I'd like to do the same thing for Tamara as well. Take her head. And of course give her an expression too. By the way, if you're using expressions and you've got this gizmo in the way now and you think, yeah, that's kind of occluding her expression, you can always change over to this guy here, which is the node selection tool. So the node that's selected is currently still selected, but the gizmo is going to go away. So that'll make it easier for you to go and pick something else. There's maybe excited Tess, maybe she really likes that t-shirt, I don't know. Oh, she doesn't like that t-shirt. As I said, good expressions are very difficult to come by. That's kind of cool, and perhaps she's also surprised on top of that. So she's like, whoa, awesome stuff. Mom's going to buy this for me. That's I kind of like that. You can also do something with the eyes. While we're here, have a look at the eyes section here, and there's one slider that says side to side. That's this one, and we can use that to literally point the eyes into the right direction. You can also animate these things. That's also good. Sometimes this blank stare right in the middle, that's just doesn't look good. And you've got the same thing for up and down, so you can also pan the eyes slightly further down, like this maybe. Yeah, this is kind of, I'm getting the expression as if she's really looking at the action there. Okay, enough expressions. Let's do some hair. And I'm going to use Tamara's hair for Tamara. Oops. Press the wrong button there. I'm just going to close some of these things down here. That makes it a bit easier for me. So with Tamara selected, I'm going to go and head over to my Smart Content tab. In the hair folder, I should see Tamara's hair. There we go. Double click it and it fits right onto her. There are some styling options, but I think I'm just going to leave it as it is because it's just a short bop type thing. That's nice. And for RUNE, I'm going to use one of Biscuits' latest hair products, the GILI hair. Awesome hair, awesome hair. Like every hair product that Biscuits makes, absolutely stunning. The amount of features you get, and in this one particularly, so first of all, I'm using a Genesis 3 character, and Biscuits' hair is actually made for Genesis 8. But it doesn't matter because AutoFit does a very good job at fitting that. So I have to do this from the Content Library tab here instead of the Smart Content tab because it's Renderosity content and hence it's not Smart Content compatible by default. You'll find that in your library wherever you're installing it. So I've got my rendo content in a different library. You find that under, I believe, under people, correct me if I'm wrong, Biscuits, people, Genesis 8 female, and there's hair here, and in hair you find Biscuits, and in Biscuits you find GILI hair. There we go. So that's the hair prop. Double click that to add that to the figure, and in my case this dialog now comes up, and that's because this is now content that needs to be auto fitted. Hair works really well if you just leave it on unsupported. That's fine. DAZ Studio will figure out what else it is. Also, what type of item is it? Don't worry about putting anything. It's fine. Just unsupported will work fine. DAZ Studio thinks about it for a second. And another second. And there we have it. Oh, actually, it's not done as great a job as I had seen it. I think I may have used the shoulder length hair instead as the conversion option. Let's do that again. I'm not happy with those strands here at the bottom. I've not seen that in the previous test. Let's try that again. So unsupported I'll leave, but in this case I'm going to use hair shoulder length. I believe actually the difference between those options is that the amount of rigging, I think, that's kind of applied or recalculated in that is different. So I think if you have a shirt, then you won't look at the rigging for the bottom trouser type, and vice versa. If you only have the shorts, then you don't worry about the top part or the bottom part. So then the calculations are a little bit faster and more accurate. So in my case here, I can see that the back of the hair has now been conformed properly. So that's, you know, much better. Please do chat crypto. Absolutely. That'd be very nice. Yes, I think this is what our community is all about, this sharing knowledge, because we all know little bits and pieces to the bigger puzzle, and the more we share, the better we all get. And I think that is what I really enjoy about this whole interaction, be that here on YouTube during the streams, or comments on YouTube, or our new Discord thing. Absolutely great. The stuff that we all bring to the table is kind of mind-blowing, and we all come from so many different walks of life. I really enjoy that. So yes, definitely share it. So that's our hair, the GILI hair for RUNE sorted. I would like to add a bit of a preset to it because, as I said before, I'll just select the hair here. I need to do that in order to be able to apply a preset to it. There they are under, so there's one extra folder here. And those are, you know, several types of gloss and transparency maps. I'm going to leave those alone. I haven't played with those yet, Biscuits. But under natural, we have natural hair colors. And because she's got these freckles on her face, I think maybe I'm going to make her a redhead. So this could be kind of a good hair color for her, I'm thinking. Boom. All right. We'll see how that looks in a moment. I'll just use that hair one more time, namely on my character in the back here. And so if this is the default kind of GILI hair, if we look at that, and we now head over to our other character here, Alexandra, she is actually a Genesis 8 figure, so we can go and don't have to do any auto fitting there. With Alexandra selected, I'll go once again to the hair, double click it, and that should just plop right on there without any recalculations. Because I like her to be a bit of an older lady, I'm going to go and give her something like, you know, gray hair. Select the hair first. Make sure you don't select the actual character, because otherwise that's not going to work. Yeah, either this or that. Maybe the first one is kind of a gray hair thing. But watch what happens if I head over to this thing here, style presets. So this is absolutely exciting about the, can you actually see that here? There, maybe make that a bit higher there, perfect. This is actually very exciting about this hair, that this is the default style, and these two are now different styles. So I can go and double click this, and then GILI hair turns into something completely different. Or this. So it's like 3 hair props in one. That is very cool. $7, can't really quibble. Very nice. Thank you, Biscuits. Thank you so much for making that. That's great. I think I'm going to give her the kind of updo hairstyle. And she'll be out of focus, so I don't think we'll need an expression on her. So I'll just leave her as it is. I'll go switch back over to my camera. And now let's just see what this looks like rendered. Perhaps I'm going to go and save it. Too late. Just switch over to the iRay viewport. That's always a good idea to save before you do that. Because otherwise, you know. I will have a look. Thank you so much for the tip there, Steve. I think so. It's either there or maybe I've done it in render settings. I can't remember. Usually I'm pretty good at making sure that is off. But let's check. That's a very, very good point. Headlamp sometimes catches you out. No matter what lighting adjustments you make, you think, I'm always getting this flat lighting from the front. What's going on? Yeah, headlamp is destroying everything that you've set up. Yeah, see, it's set to auto, so that is bad. Thank you so much, Steve, for bringing that to my attention. It's either in the camera here. It's always a good idea to switch that off. And there's also another way to switch it on and off in the render settings. So I'll show you that in a moment. I'm not entirely sure why this looks so pixelated now. That shouldn't really be like that. Maybe iRay is going a bad hair day, so to speak. So does my mouse, actually. My mouse no longer moves. Yo, mouse. Oh, there we go. Can you remember where that is? Oh, there we go. Auto headlamp, there it is. When no scene lights or never. Always a good idea to switch that off. Yeah, I don't really know what's going on here. I don't know if you can see that in the stream, but this looks completely pixelated. It's not even something that the denoiser's gotten rid of. This looks like it's a super low resolution that's being rendered here. And that looks terrible. I think what I'm going to do is switch iRay off again. Go and save my scene, just restart that studio, because this is one of those things I'm not entirely happy with how this behaves here. Depth of field will be next, and then we'll do some background action here. Yeah, sometimes that studio just has, turn it into something like this. So this is where you can see that the depth of field is applied, and this is just moving something more interesting in the background here, because we can see that this is kind of way out, but this is something I'd like to fix. So we'll totally do that. Come on, DAZ Studio, don't leave us hanging. Thank you, Antoine. I'll definitely check that out. Very nice. Yes, these $2.99 deals, sometimes they have such good deals there. Boutique Stream, let's see if it works. I think so too, Dreamlab. I think so too. And it's this that in this case we have depth of field in front and behind the characters, and I think that really focuses the viewer's attention on the characters, but also without kind of distracting them. I often find that when you have a render and everything's in focus and there's a lot of stuff in the render, it's sometimes difficult to pick out what's actually important. And in this case, you want to focus on the characters or on the expressions. And it's also, especially when you're making comics, I think if you put the speech bubbles into the scene, you can kind of think ahead there already. If you go and say, actually, that is a part of the background that's probably being occluded by a speech bubble. Don't worry about it, or make it kind of nice and neutral so that the speech bubble also stands out there. Well, we see a black picture. If I hit Control L, we get the preview lights. I'm not entirely sure about her expression there. We're gonna figure it out in a minute once we see a slightly more rendered image. And then we'll do the background here, we'll do the depth of field, which is just a very small final touch, and I think then we're done. Yeah, I think I may just play around with her expression here. I'm not entirely sure about that. Perhaps I'll move the whole figure slightly further, turn her kind of clockwise. I'm happy with RUNE. I'm not quite that happy with TAMARA just yet. Yeah, we can see the link now, Christina. It's both on, I can see it in YouTube and I can also see it in Mixer. So that's cool. But hey, it's a good product. So, you know, and it's $2.99. That's exciting. I might have another look later and see what other funky deals I can get there, especially the Ironman ones. That's really cool. Yeah, look, much better. So in this case, it was literally that studio had to have a restart. Otherwise, you know, it just wouldn't have worked that well. I think also I'd like to maybe give that lady a little bit more headroom. So I think I'll move this down just a little bit, like so. Do you know, there's another thing, I've learned that from Steve, by the way. Here's so much about sharing knowledge. Steve shared a funky tip about using the framing aid up here. On this dotted line here, you can add the rule of thirds or the show the thirds guide. When you switch that on, you get this overlay, like the overlay that you get in some professional cameras. And that makes framing your shot a lot easier. So I'm kind of here, I'm kind of there. It's almost better the way it was before. These intersections here appear to the human eye to be kind of points of importance. So if you frame up, if you kind of align your shot with those points, you end up having a fairly good and balanced frame. Rod's gotta go. Oh, bon appetit, Rod. What's for dinner? What's for dinner? Can we come? I'm just tumbling my camera there a little bit. I think I'm more happy with this. I'm not happy with TAMARA, so let's fix TAMARA and let's do some depth of field. I'll do that in the texture shaded view again. And perhaps with the perspective view. Oh, nice one. Very nice. Can't go wrong with that. How's Jolene doing? You have to go, don't you? This is how, I'm coming, dear, I'll be there in a minute. 2 hours later, your dinner is getting cold, Rod. So let's fix the expression first. I think we have the hair selected there instead of the actual character. So with currently used, this is another nice tip. If you're thinking, well, there's so many sliders, which ones have I actually used? You can go on to currently used, and then it'll filter out anything that is used. So some of these are now the combined things that are part of the expression. So like your outer brow, outer, up, down, right, that sort of thing. But there's also the green ones here, and that's the one I've used from the excited expression. Maybe that's just a little bit too much. Yeah, let me just tone that down a little bit to here. And when you do that, you can see that many of the other sliders are sliding around at the same time. So maybe just like that. And I think I'd like her to be a little bit more happy somehow, or smile. Yeah, like that. That looks a bit more friendly, doesn't it? Yeah, let's do that. And I think the other thing I wanted to do is turn her turn her over slightly, like so. And maybe even move her a bit closer to that. See what that looks like in the final shot. Kind of better. Also, I'm not entirely sure about her arm here. This arm. Why can't I select that? There, that's the spirit. I like for the arm to just bend down a little bit. I think it's a bit too far at the top here. Yeah, it's probably enough. This is what I could really do with a second monitor, I guess. Yeah, like that, and then there's just a tiny bit of twist of the arm that I like to apply there. There. That is all I wanted to do here. And now we're nearly done. I'm going to go and position this out of vision, I think, as we say. If your viewport is really lagging behind, I'm going to go and switch the thirds guide off now. If your viewport is really lagging behind, you can go through the scene and switch large parts of it off. So like any of these mannequins, you can literally switch off. Some of the shoe cupboards, if you're not using them, go get rid of them. Just click on them and then go and hit the delete key, and then that should get rid of the figure. I'm thinking maybe this clothes rack here, the whole rack actually, that could come over to this side here, I'm thinking. I'm keeping an eye on the little monitor here to see these two things side by side. You can also switch on like a better workspace here, like a side by side or top and bottom viewport. That would also work. And then you can have a look at your camera on the bottom here. So we don't need to use this. And then on the top here, you can use the perspective view. So therefore, you can then have a nice look at what you're fiddling around with in the top monitor, and then look at how that's positioned while you're looking through the camera in the bottom. Well, it's kind of intersecting with the wall a little bit, so let's take that out. I'm thinking perhaps it looks better the other way around. Yeah, it might be better this way. And then I think this stylish young lady here, I think she could maybe be here. Yeah, look at that. Yeah, I think I'm kind of happy with that. It's almost too much stuff in the background. I'm thinking of switching this coat rack off, delete it. Oh yeah, that's cool. Let's do that. Let's do that. Okay, final thing, my friends. Nice one. Very cool. Scene optimizer. I like it. I can do that, Antoine. Yes, mine is the RTX 2080 as well. I was going to make a video actually on comparing those various models, because not all graphics cards are equal. So that's another huge thing, isn't it? That there is the RTX 2080, but it's made by 12 different people in like 19 different configurations, and that really makes it very difficult for newbies to pick the correct graphics card, because there's RTX 2080s that perform better than others, and there's ones that have fans on the top that blow air basically into the case, and others blow air out at the back, and some have 3 fans, some have 2 fans. So that's a very good idea. Thank you. I may just go to town on that. So let's do depth of field, and that is something I like to do from the top viewport. Let me go and change my my window back to the single layout here, and at the top here I'll go and change this over to the top view. And that now lets me look at the very top of my scene. So there's no perspective there, just the scene from the top. And I'm going to go and frame up my camera and my characters together. It's slightly difficult to see now because we have so much white in there, but I can always switch some stuff off. So this white stuff, that's the floor. Maybe I'm just going to go and switch the floor off. And that's just so that we can see some helper lines better in a moment. So if you're having a hard time finding both your camera and your characters, you can select your camera from the scene tab here. It's here somewhere. Sometimes my mouse doesn't. Sure. Thank you so much for joining us. I appreciate that. Very nice of you to drop in, Steve. Always nice to have you. And thank you for your videos. Very nice. Steve's channel is Backdoor 3D, by the way. Check it out. There's some very useful tips on there. Christina also made some very helpful tips, so check those two channels out if you want to know more about DAZ Studio and integration with other programs like Blender and so forth. I highly recommend it. So you can select the camera here and click that little square icon, and then that'll frame up just your camera. But if you're concerned about the camera and how it looks like in relation to a character, you can use the shift trick and select the camera and then select your, the control trick, sorry. Select the camera, control click the character that you want to frame up so that both of these are selected. Then hit the square button and that'll picture both of these things in your viewport. And that's important because now we're going to go into the cameras tab. I've got that open here already with the camera selected. You can also do that from the parameters tab. Up to you if you're using the cameras or the parameters tab. Go to the camera inside the camera tab, and there's this button here called depth of field. And if you switch that on, then you can see some helper lines appearing in the scene. Now this is what we're talking about, this white thing. If you switch that on and off, that's the thing that'll appear. And anything in between that will be in focus, and anything out of that before or after those little two lines will be out of focus. You can change that, the gap here, with this focal distance parameter. If you move that forward, then you can see that those two lines go forward. So there are two planes, and anything in between those two planes will be in focus. So I'm going to position that on my characters like so. If you need those lines to be further apart, then you can fiddle with the f-stop parameter. So a larger number makes those two things go further apart. A smaller number makes them go closer together. In photography terms, this means you have a shallower depth of field. So if you look at this, like a very thin gap between those two lines, that means you get a very shallow depth of field. Only a very small portion of your window, of your picture, will be in focus. The rest will be out of focus. And that just goes hand in hand with the f-stop on a regular camera. Or you make it like a larger f-stop, which means the depth of field will be less shallow and more of your image will be appearing in focus. So I think I'm just going to go and use the default, and we can see how that floats our boat. Alt-click on most of these sliders to bring them back to the default location. Sometimes works, sometimes doesn't. Let's switch this back into the camera view. I've already switched iRay on, which I shouldn't have done. I should have switched to the camera first and then switched iRay on, but hey, one of those things. I didn't actually know. What does the green cross do, Patrick? Oh, okay, I see. I can't quite see the green. I've got like a little ball. Is that it? That could be it. Yeah, okay. Right. Thank you. Very good. Definitely in the middle. Have you ever tried to move that dot? Because you can basically touch it in the scene and then move it across, and will that change the depth of field as well?